Good morning. Even though we're doing school differently this year with some or many people still on remote learning, it's nice to know that some things don't change. For instance, even though many people are doing school from home, most of the college students that I work with just got through their first round of exams. These are people going to school in person and also remotely. This is a very important time in my work with my clients who are making sure they are on track to do their best this semester. I found that there are a couple of distinct waypoints throughout the semester when a person can focus their attention on the method of their work and likely achieve greater success. The method as opposed to the content of their work or their knowledge or acquisition of a skill. So how they access the material. Before the semester starts, we examine the classes and work to anticipate things like workload and build a nice routine. After the first week of class, we look at the syllabi that they have gathered and decide if this is really the best class to take at this time. And after the first round of exams, which is usually about 3 to 5 weeks into the semester, is when we examine how the student is studying and look for things that work and things that don't work. I wanted to share with you the basic structure of my check-in with students after this first round of exams. The basic structure is based on the same principles that underlie ABA therapy, if you're familiar with ABA therapy. The theory is actually, the theory that underlines ABA therapy and the work that I do with these students is actually extremely versatile, and it's actually pretty simplistic. So the application of this theory is fairly broad. I wait for people to get the results of their first couple of exams or projects, and I ask several questions. The first one, so I have 4 questions. The first one is, how did you do? And then secondly, how are you satisfied with this score or this grade or this mark? The third and fourth questions are what we do to figure out what to keep doing differently, what to keep doing and what to try differently for the next round of exams. The question number 3 is, how much did you study? That's a pretty obvious question and one that most people ask, but the one that I am thinking is more necessary is, how did you study? Not just what kind of time did you put in, but how did you spend the time? So how did you do? Do you like how you did? How much time did you put in, and then how did you use your time? Those 4 questions. If a person reported to me that they got a grade they were satisfied with, we should still analyze the study method. This will give the person clues as to how to organize their time for the next test. Sometimes people will say that the method they used was great, but something meaningful will change the next round and we'll need to make changes to account for that. Usually it's the case that the person will anticipate that the material will get harder and they will decide to either study more or in a different way. Usually it's study more. More often than not, however, someone will decide that they really want to get a better grade, which makes sense because unfortunately academics is as much a numbers game as it is a knowledge game. And really, numbers-wise, you're looking to maximize your score across exams and projects and that kind of thing to maximize your overall score in the class. More on that on a different video, though. In the case where you want to get a better grade, you have to do a thorough review of what they did to get the grade that they actually received. Ask questions about not only the amount of study, including time totals and over how many days, and I do get really detailed as much as possible, but also methods of study. One thing I've discovered by simply asking, how did you study, is that most people actually don't know how to study. They will say, I don't know, what do you mean? Or they will only know one way to study. Most people will say something like, I looked at my notes, or I reread the book. In many cases where I hear this, what I find is that people set out to do the activity of studying, but doing something that increases knowledge and understanding was more of an afterthought. Listen to the difference. I studied or I increased my knowledge. These are 2 different things to do. it is not getting more knowledge and understanding was not the primary goal. The primary goal was to do the activity of studying. Most people I survey will say that they need to study more, and most people actually need to study differently. The number of study methods, if you actually look into this in a systematic way, are innumerable, and thus they're beyond the scope of this video. What I will say is that with effective investigation, including being thorough with questions about methods of study, and also asking what worked and what didn't work, the answer to the question, what do I do differently next time, usually presents itself. By this I mean that I rarely have to innovate or give advice to people. And ultimately that is my goal. I have said this elsewhere, I am no genius. I also don't know a lot about cutting-edge study methods. The way I have been useful to people I work with, however, is asking the right questions. I ask questions until I can reconstruct exactly what my client is able to remember about how they got to the point they are. So there are obviously limits to the amount of information I can get, but I keep pushing those limits until there is no more useful information to get. It is usually this guided and intense self-examination that allows the client to generate the what's next when it comes to increasing a score on exams and projects. And even if they don't know more than one way to study, we usually have a good enough question to type into Google and get some ideas about things to try next. Top 10 study methods for college literature class. So why am I telling you this? All of us take tests all the time, and it's conceivable that you just got a test grade back that you didn't like. Through the process of self-examination and using the questions above, like do I like the outcome and how much did I study and how did I study, or some variation of that, you can probably come up with a pretty good idea of what to do differently next time. I would recommend you run your idea by somebody to make sure it's not too absurd. We can correct and avoid a lot of error in this way. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.